doing? Well, as I have my coffee with you, it is morning. I picked another spot. I'm back outside again. The weather's nice and it's not noisy, so I can get out here and talk. But I'm off to myself because I've got new neighbors in tents and I don't want to wake them up. It is early. The sun's not shining yet. It probably is up there somewhere underneath the clouds. But I brought my artificial light, so we're okay. I've ordered a new tripod, but I'm still working on my broken one. So I can't extend it all the way, so it's sitting on top of a table here. I don't see my geese. They're not even up yet. If they were here, they'd be wanting food. It's one of the problems with feeding animals is they get into a habit and then they expect it. So you gotta basically vary it. You can't feed them every time because then they're just stop foraging for themselves. They have to learn to take care of themselves, and you can supplement their food, but don't take over for it. All right, so for this message, the most important message, it's hard to get attention to get an important message out. I don't know if you're old enough to remember circuses. We don't have them anymore. Back before people knew how to entertain themselves with little handheld devices or whatever, they used to travel around in a circus and bring entertainment to you. People are not impressed anymore by what a circus can do because they can see everything on YouTube or whatever other platform they've got. Nothing impresses anybody anymore, not even God, and that's the sad part. But the circus, it was called a three-ring circus for a reason. Inside the big circus tents, there'd be a center ring where the main acts would show, and there'd be two side rings so that they could have enough room for seating for everybody, but not everybody could have a front row seat at the big ring. But you could see everything going on inside. I mean, it's not like there were walls up. You go to a casino now in Vegas or someplace and they've got their main room. You know, they've got side rooms too. When I used to live there, I used to love to go to see the side rooms because they were more interesting acts, not as well known perhaps. But the message is real simple. We're looking center stage now. God has done his best to give people options. And people have turned down the options time and time again. Even his chosen people have turned down the options. Do this and you can restore your life. But this is all the life that people know about. They don't know about heaven. They don't really know who God is because we don't see him. So we're in the center ring and we're watching all this stuff that was prophesied about hundreds of years ago. It's coming true. So we got to get the message out. The message is real simple. Adam and Eve chose to know the knowledge of good and evil, to be like God as they were told by Satan. We're already like God. See, that's the lie. We were created in his image. And God does not deal with evil. He can't. He's all good. You say, well, how can this stuff happen on the world? This is, if it's good, it's from above. If it's bad, it's from man or the devil. It's real simple. There's a division between God and man now. And he's tried all kinds of earthly ways to give people an option. We got the law. Follow the law and you can get to heaven. You can be restored to God. Couldn't do it. So we got the next best thing to having God. He gave us his Son. John 3:16, for God so loved the world that he gave us his own begotten Son, that whoever believes in him will not perish and have everlasting life. That's your requirement. Believe and accept Jesus Christ. He's the center act. Jesus said, if you've seen me, you've seen the Father. So the choice is real simple. Continue on this world, die, and go to hell. God's not sending anybody to hell. Everybody was destined to hell from the time of Adam. God has been providing ways to get out of that path. And it's been rejected time and time again by man. Now there's some encouragement from Satan. Again, more lies. But the message is simple. Believe in Jesus Christ. Repent from your earthly ways. Die to this world and be reborn into the world of God and eternity in heaven. That's the simple message. It's very simple. But then Satan will come down here and get people to buy into lies. So we have to deal with that. Talked about the circus. How about a rodeo? Or if you're from Beverly Hills, rodeo. When the rider would get through, especially if they're riding the bulls, those Brahma bulls can be really mean. And they can turn on the rider when he gets off. That's Satan. We're kind of riding on the back of Satan. I think there was one bull named Satan. Probably more than one, but one main one. But in any case, the bull would turn, out would pop clowns. Now, the cows don't care that they're dressed up as clowns. That's for us, the audience, to see and laugh at these clowns running around crazy, but distracting the bull and getting the bull to chase them. They had to be in good shape. But they're taking the distraction so that the rider can get away safely. Well, we're kind of rodeo clowns now. I've got clown makeup I can put on. I've done that in the past. One thing about clowns, if you're doing it professionally, and it's hard to do this, you've got to have a unique clown face. You can't copy somebody else's clown face. It's tradition. There's no law against it, but it's tradition. You want to be accepted with the other clowns. You can't have a copy. You have to be unique. And there's various forms, from Red Skelton's clown, the poor bum type clown, hobo, to the big circus clowns that we're used to seeing, where they got the big hats and the colorful clothes. They're out there for one reason: to get your attention and distract you, perhaps even as an act. But if you're being distracted, you're not noticing that they're setting up the next act, moving things around, getting it set up. We have to get people's attention however we can, in a good way, to get this important message out. And as a clown, these people are taking on this persona of a colorful but yet crazy person, perhaps. Someone who's not, if you watch the Greatest Showman with Hugh Jackman. There's other clown movies, but that's a good one that I like, and I've worked with Hugh Jackman. If you watch that, you see that he comes out with a presence far above the clowns. Well, that's kind of the Jesus figure running things there, getting things going, calling out, telling people what's going on. But the clowns are the workers. And we're the workers. Don't be afraid to be humiliated, to be called names. We're servants. But we've got to basically clean out the riffraff, get everybody distracted that's causing problems, to get them to focus on the center ring where the main guy is out there talking. Jesus has the message. He's the messenger, and he's the reward. This is a unique event in the history of mankind. No other religion has this type of character. No other religion has the Son of God. Now, they have people that they claim to be gifted. From an earthly point of view, the other religions can help you. But they won't get you off this planet. You're still on the road to hell. Only one religion can guarantee you that you're going to get to heaven. And it's free. That's the message that we have to get out to the world. We're running out of time. Literally. We are running out of time. We're on the verge of everything exploding. And some of it literally. As I mentioned in the last time I talked, things are slowing down. Because we're so close to the edge, you can't move things big, or you're going to go over the edge. They're not quite ready yet. I don't know why. Satan's not afraid to trigger things, but I think man is. You know, we have a president who obviously has reached the limit. He may have started off okay in the beginning, but he's not now. He shouldn't be rerunning again. But again, he's not doing things. He's not saying his own things. Somebody else is giving it to him. So if you're going to have a puppet, it doesn't matter what shape they're in. As long as they can sit up or stand up, you can still use them as a puppet. But one of the things about being a puppet, or a ventriloquist, if you will, you're not supposed to know that they're a ventriloquist. Very often when you do your skeleton thing, we can see you talking. And we're not watching the skeleton all the time. I know it's a cute little ploy, and I like it. And I do believe in your profession of being a chiropractor. I've seen them many times in my life. But we can still see your mouth moving. Practice. I know that's not your main vocation. But for our country, who's been the example for the world, we're now the joke of the world. Nobody's afraid of us. They're afraid of what we could do if the right person gets back in place. I didn't get to see who it was because I was just glancing through my news this morning, but one individual who's well enough known that people would listen to this person said the Democrats have to get together and assassinate Trump. That is absolute treason. And yet they're getting away with it so far. We've got Hollywood types which need to keep their mouth shut. You guys are used to being actors. Why should we believe you? Especially when you say stupid things like, if Trump gets in, the whole world's going to go down the toilet, you know. Frankly, anybody who's against the one world order would be somebody that we should vote for. But we can't stop this. So don't try. Try to control your little area. You're not going to change the world. The world is already on the train to hell. But we can change our little community. Get together, as we talked about in the previous video. Get together with a group of your friends that have like beliefs. And form a little help group. Make sure everybody has everybody's phone numbers, email addresses, all the stuff. When you come up with something new that would be helpful, share it amongst your group. And if something goes wrong, and it doesn't have to be the end of the world. We've got a hurricane out there doing damage. Hurricane season for the South, with the exception of Florida and the Gulf Coast, it's not a big deal. The big deal with the hurricanes, when they get close to us, the arms tend to spawn off tornadoes. And we can get tornadoes out of it. If there's damage, who's going to be the first people there? We call them the first responders, but they're government, and they may not be there immediately. If power goes out in a wide section, you don't just flip a switch. It's not a breaker. The power lines are on the ground. Somebody has to physically come out and put those up. What are you going to do to help people in those times? Anybody in those kind of an area should have a generator or solar power to run enough to keep things going. You're thinking that you're prepped, you've got your refrigerator is full. What happens if there's no power? But the big thing is you've got to keep this message going. And they know that. In places like China, they have literally blocked the internet from the world. They can talk within themselves, and they're policed very highly. But they can't see what's going on in the world. They have to rely on other means. They're not real happy with Starlink and their proposed internet in the sky. They launched more Starlink satellites yesterday or this morning, anyhow, within the last day. And out of that, I think there's 10 more internet satellites that actually are cell towers in sky. So you can use your phone. It's not turned on yet. In small areas it is. But you could use your phone to get to a satellite and actually have a satellite communication with the world out in the middle of nowhere. I'm out in the country. Many people live far from good cell signal. And you have to pay for a landline, and they charge way too much for that. It's going to come back to get them because there's going to be competition to replace the landline. Now, if you've got fiber optics, it's faster, I agree, but you can't run fiber everywhere economically. So if you want to travel like I do, you have to use the sky, satellites. Keep the message going as long as you can, because eventually our government is going to shut this down. They may not completely shut it down, but there's going to be, oh my God, we had a power failure at a distribution site and the internet's down in the southeast. Whatever it's going to be. We had a massive solar flare and it knocked out all the satellites. Could happen. SpaceX has lost satellites due to a solar flare in the past. It may not be as blatant as China, but it will happen. And ultimately, and I hope we're not here during this, but I think during the tribulation, communication will go down. We know, the world knows, where the cables run across the Atlantic that connect Europe and the United States. We know where the cables are. We know where pipelines are. We know that Russia lost a pipeline underneath the sea. We don't know who blew it up. We have our suspicions. But we know where all this stuff is, and if we know where it's at, the enemy knows where it's at. Keep this message going as long as you can. Tell your friends, and they need to tell their friends. Now, don't get your little group too big, because then it becomes unmanageable, and then you're going to start having people that have their own opinions that don't want to do what the group wants. Communism is a bigger word for commune. Communes can work because you have a small group of people who have the same opinion on things. And if you go over to Israel, you might find a kibbutz that does that. It's a form of communism. It's one of the reasons that the Russians voted to let them become a state back in 1948, because they're looking at all these kibbutzes going, this is communism. But it only works on a very small scale. It doesn't scale up to the world. It won't. You can't get 10 people to be in agreement on anything. Maybe 5, but not 10. Certainly not 100 or 1,000 or 1,000,000. You're not going to get people in agreement. When we had 9/11, the country came together for a couple of weeks in full agreement. But then we went right back to normal. Everybody believing their own things, all the lies that are out there. Keep the message flowing. It's important. It's all our real job is. Whatever we do to make a living, that's one thing. But keeping this message going is the primary thing. It's why we have a job to sustain us, so that we can keep this message going. Jesus was a carpenter. Paul was a tent maker. Most of the apostles were fishermen. They had jobs. There's nothing wrong with having a job, but they took time out to keep the message going. And it's real handy if you're hungry and you need food to have a fisherman with you and a lake like I have behind me. There are fish in it, and people catch fish. Keep the message going. It's very plain and simple. The message that God loves the world, that He sent us His Son to save us because we couldn't save ourselves. And in this day of inflation, the cost of salvation has not gone up. It is still 0. It just requires a commitment. Believe and accept. That's the commitment. The rest God will help with. Till we meet in the clouds, God bless.